Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating journey to fundamentally rethink what education actually means. We'll be using the profound insights of philosopher Naqib al-Attas to unpack what I can only describe as a massive paradigm shift. If you're a parent, a teacher, or honestly just someone who cares about how we're shaping the next generation, this explainer is absolutely going to challenge everything you thought you knew about the learning process. So think about this for a second. What is our ultimate goal when we pack our kids off to school? Are we trying to truly form complete, deeply moral human beings? Or has the modern status quo kind of quietly shifted the goalposts on us? Are we now just trying to produce useful, economically productive citizens? Keep that question rolling around in the back of your mind, because the answer actually lies in the very words we use to define education itself. Section 1. The limits of Tarbiyah. To really grasp the true goal of education, we've got to start by examining the most common Arabic term people use for it today, tarbiyah. Now, if you look purely at classical Arabic sources, tarbiyah literally means nurturing, feeding, raising, and fostering physical growth. And here's the crazy part. Technically speaking, this word applies just as well to breeding poultry or watering a houseplant as it does to raising a human child. It is fundamentally all about physical and material development, not the uniquely human intellect. And that brings us to the author's profound alternative, Ta'dīb. Derived from the word Adab, Ta'dīb is a completely different ballgame. It is all about inculcating knowledge, actively shaping the intellect, and guiding humans to properly recognize God and act with right conduct. So unlike Tarbiyah, Ta'dīb is uniquely and exclusively laser-focused on human intellectual, moral, and spiritual formation. Section 2. Ta'dīb. True Islamic education. Okay, so this is where the paradigm shift really happens. Al-Attas argues that Ta'dīb is actually the only accurate representation of true Islamic education. When you cross-examine these two terms side by side, the contrast is just stark. The scope of Tarbiyah? It applies to all living things, but Ta'dīb, strictly for humans. Tarbiyah focuses on the physical, while Ta'dīb targets the intellectual and the spiritual. In the realm of true education, you simply cannot artificially stuff the complex process of intellectual formation into a word that was originally meant for physical growth. To really drive this point home, the author points us to a very famous Quranic supplication. "My Lord, have mercy on them as they cherished me in childhood." The word used there for cherished or raised comes from the exact same root as tarbiyah. So, it's this profound realization that tarbiyah is essentially an act of mercy, loving care, and physical protection, what we know as rahmah. It is not the impartation of knowledge or ilm. When a parent feeds and protects their child, that's tarbiyah. But educating their intellect, that is something else entirely. Section 3. Problem with modern schools. So you might be wondering, what happens when we apply the wrong definition of education to our real-world institutions? Let's shift from linguistic theory to practical reality. The author offers a pretty stark warning here. He says that when education is institutionalized, controlled by the state, and hyper-focused on material outcomes, it naturally becomes secularized. Knowledge gets treated as totally neutral, completely stripped of its spiritual context. It loses its deeper purpose of connecting the student to ultimate truths and proper conduct. I mean, just look at the actual functions of modern schools today. What are they doing? They're transmitting raw data, getting kids to pass standardized exams, and churning out compliant workers. See the pattern? These priorities align perfectly with the material, utilitarian goals of tarbiyah. They completely miss Ta'dīb. We are doing a brilliant job of developing students' capacities to work, but we completely fail to shape their intellects to understand their ultimate purpose. Section 4. Combining Tarbiyah and Ta'dīb. Now wait, this isn't about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? We have to ask, how do we build an environment that seamlessly nurtures both? Because these two concepts are actually highly complementary. Think of it this way. Tarbiyah provides the essential physical and emotional foundation. It gives kids a safe environment, builds basic habits, and nurtures healthy growth. But Ta'dīb provides the absolutely crucial spiritual and intellectual direction. Tarbiyah grows the student, Ta'dīb ensures that growth doesn't become purely materialistic or ego-driven. So, how is Ta'dīb actually implemented in a real curriculum? Well, it's a very deliberate progression. It starts with step 1, transferring knowledge. But it can't stop there. That knowledge has to immediately lead to step 2, deep understanding. And it's that understanding that fosters step 3, recognition. This is where the student inwardly accepts their true relationship with God, which ultimately results in step 4, action, and proper conduct. It's a beautiful flow where raw knowledge transforms into conscious servanthood. Section 5. The Online Education Challenge. All right, we have to address the elephant in the modern room. How on earth do we achieve this deep spiritual formation through digital screens? It's tough because online platforms are built for pure efficiency, meaning they inherently lean heavily toward content delivery. They are excellent at transferring information, which means they can so easily devolve into what we might call Tarbiyah light. You get all the skills and the data, but you lose that personal guidance and the moral modeling of Adab that requires real human connection. But listen, it's not impossible. It just requires some incredibly intentional design choices. If you want to elevate a digital curriculum from mere information transfer to true ta'dīb, online educators have to prioritize live interaction and deep discussion. Lessons must require actual reflection on meaning, not just rote memorization. Teachers have to figure out how to model proper conduct and sincerity through their digital presence. And honestly, crucially, there must be a rock-solid partnership with the home. The parents provide the physical tarbiyah at home, while the school provides the intellectual ta'dīb.
Section 6. Measuring true understanding.
Okay, so let's say we successfully implement ta'dīb. That means we have to completely rethink how we assess it. How do you measure the soul and the intellect? The text introduces a really fascinating concept here, the Rabbani. A Rabbani is a wise, learned person. But just possessing deep knowledge is just a static state of being. Education is the active process of intellectual transformation. We shouldn't just be testing if a student acts like a static textbook. We must assess whether that knowledge has actively shaped how they live.
This totally flips our metrics upside down. Traditional assessments rely so heavily on memorization, standardized grades, and factual recall, basically just measuring what information is stored on the hard drive. But ta'dīb requires a holistic evaluation. We're talking ethical reasoning, moral application, deep reflection, and observable conduct. It literally forces us to use things like oral explanations, reflective journals, and scenario-based reasoning to actually prove that the intellect has been ordered correctly.
And that brings us to the ultimate mic drop question based on everything we've unpacked today. I want you to evaluate your own educational environments, your classrooms, or your parenting. Does your environment merely grow the student physically and economically, hitting the limits of tarbiyah? Or does it truly shape the soul, the intellect, and the moral compass, the true essence of ta'dīb? It's a profound distinction, and for sure, one that changes the entire purpose of learning. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep seeking true understanding.